Christopher De Santiago with Sports Illustrated's MMA Knockout. Here today with 15-time UFC veteran Cody Stamann, the Spartan himself, after an incredible UFC career. Cody, how's it going today, man?
I'm pretty good, dude. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. A lot of fans were sad to see you removed from the UFC roster after so many years of fighting the best in the world. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your contract situation?
I thought my last fight in my contract was my last fight, and I think an absolute a terrible performance doesn't really warrant the UFC re-signing me, especially the amount of money that I'm making. And so, I mean, I'm absolutely nothing but grateful and thankful to the UFC and to the UFC staff and everyone at the PI. I couldn't be more thankful for those people. They are really genuinely solid, good people. Top to bottom. I was treated like a star, with the people at the UFC. Like the people that we see as athletes are they really care about the fighters, like as fighters, but also as human beings. The same thing with the staff at the UFC PI. They were absolutely, they couldn't have been better, honestly. I had some really terrible injuries that I recovered, in half the time, training with the people at the PI. So yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for everything.
hmm I mean, you fought some of the best of the best. Merab Dvalishvili, former current champ, Aljamain Sterling, former champ, Song
Yeah.
Yadong, you fought to the draw with him. What's it like to have fought the best in the UFC for so many years, man?
Well, it's wild. I was in the top 10 in the UFC in less than, a year of being in the UFC. So I literally went from like fighting people on the regional scene. I kind of got thrown into the mix with, the toughest dudes, in the sport. And I fought a lot of these guys on their way up. I fought Aljamain Sterling before. Aljamain Sterling was my fourth UFC fight. That gives you an idea like how tough the bracket was for me. And then, Song Yadong, yeah, he was still, I think he was like 4-0, 5-0 in the UFC when I fought him. And then Merab, Merab was, I don't know, 6-1 or something in the UFC, and he went on an absolute tear after fighting me. And yeah, I mean, I look back at those fights and I I could have beat any of those guys, you know what I mean? Like there's not a guy in the UFC that I really feel like I didn't like have a chance against. You know what I mean? I made mistakes. They didn't, or I made mistakes and they capitalized on them, and I lost those fights, and that's all on me. I don't look back and think, man, if this person or that person would have done something, everything would have changed for me. I think your life as an athlete, you win and lose, it's always your fault, and so when I look back at my UFC career, I mean, I really probably should have slowed my roll a little bit. I should have maybe, said no to some fights, with injuries and bad preparation and things that happen. But, you know, uh, when I got into the UFC, I kind of switched, my game plan, and I was like, listen, if it makes money, it makes sense. Like I am going to fight whoever, whenever, no matter what kind of condition I'm in, because I'm fighting for money. You know what I mean? And maybe I made some bad decisions on fighting people on short notice or fighting people with certain injuries. But I don't regret any of it. You know what I mean? It was the craziest 8 years of my life. It really was. It was insane, and I think it'll like right now it's still kind of it's kind of stings still, but in time I think I'll get over it. I'll just be happy that I got to compete with the best guys to ever do it.
Awesome, man. Looking back at your career, like I guess what would you say is the most memorable moment? Like for me, I think it would probably be the Eddie Wineland knockout. But for you, what was that moment?
I mean that was definitely a pretty surreal moment. I like that's maybe the only time I ever went into a fight. And I was like telling my cornerman before the fight, and I was like, "Don't even sit down. Like this isn't gonna last long." I'm like, "It's me or him right away." And they were like, "Relax, relax, relax." But I really had that like mentality. I was like, listen, he's gonna knock me out, or I'm gonna knock him out, and it's gonna happen immediately. I'm gonna go in there and just get in a street fight. And obviously it panned out pretty well for me. But honestly, that's not the moment that I look back at and I think is my like highlight in my UFC career. I think what the fight for me that really changed the way I looked at myself as an athlete was the Bryan Caraway fight. That was my third fight in the UFC, and he was number 7 in the world at the time, and I was, just some silly kid from Michigan who didn't really have any real accolades outside of a Golden Gloves championship and some wrestling experience. I was, I think it was like 16-1, which cool, you know what I mean? I'd never faced that level of competition, and I was fighting someone top 10 in the world. And leading up to that fight, I tore my ribs up pretty bad. And then warming up for that fight, I actually tore my meniscus. So like, 5 minutes before I'm gonna go fight, one of the best guys in the world, my knee is completely, my knee's all jacked up. I can like barely walk. And I had a terrible training camp. And I don't know, I just had like it was like a mental thing. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. Like I was like, it doesn't really matter what happens. Like leading up to this fight, I'm gonna beat this guy. And I just had this like supreme confidence in myself. And really, I don't really know where it came from. Maybe God, but like I really had like I was so driven at that time. And when I look back, I think like mentally that was like the highlight of my career for me because I pulled something off that I really had no business doing at the time.
A little trivia for you. You fought a guy with the same record as you. Can you remember the name of the guy with the 15-1 record at the time?
Tom Duquesnoy.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
I'm just yeah, I got some trivia for you. So
that
that's
guy
my
was
one
that guy was
trivia.
scary. That guy was scary. I've never I was doing interviews and stuff leading up to the fight, and like everyone was kind of like, man, that's a tough draw for your second UFC fight. And everybody like was kind of counting me out, and I couldn't figure out why. I watched him fight. I was like, listen, yeah, he's good. Like, yeah, he's dangerous, but like I'm pretty good too. Like, I felt I wasn't really getting any respect from, any of the MMA media or really anybody, the matchmakers or anyone. And I was like, listen, I'm like, I'm just getting started in the UFC. Like, this is just the beginning, and I got it done.
So like at this point of your career, I think you said in an interview with MMA Junkie that fighting is not your only option, but you love to do it. So I guess at this point, do you want to continue fighting?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I like when I can no longer compete athletically, like I will walk away from the sport, and I will be happy that it's over. But I haven't lost the step, you know what I mean? The only thing that's kind of really happened is I've gotten significantly bigger than I used to be. And, I think what would have changed for me a long time ago is if I had listened to, people that really care about me and I would have stopped cutting so much weight, and I really think that if there's one thing I could really point at, it wasn't my preparation, it wasn't my mentality, it was the amount of weight that I was cutting. I walk around at like 170 pounds. I mean, and not like a fat kid. Like I'm in good shape at 170 pounds, and I was cutting just insane amounts of weight, and I was really just taking a lot away from my performance and my energy levels. I was just so beat up by the time the fight came around. It's hard to perform at a high level when I was cutting that much weight. And I wish, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If there's one thing that I wish I would have done, I wish I would have made the decision to go to 45. 3, 4 years ago, because I got so much denser, as time went on, and I could barely scrape it out. I could barely make the weight, and I just wasn't recovering the same way that I did when I was, 27, 28 years old.
So 45 or your career at 135 is over, 145 from now on?
Yeah, everything will be 45 from now on. Like I said, it's crazy. I mean, I'm looking at like I think I was 168 pounds today at the gym, and that's after I was, training for 2 hours. So, I'm probably like 172 pounds, and like that, the weight cut to 45 is still, it's still 20 plus pounds. Uh, it's not like a small weight cut. I'm not like a small, maybe like in terms of like height, I'm a smaller 45 pounder, but I was a massive bantamweight, but I was like taking a lot away from, myself athletically by, cutting that amount of weight. It's just not enough time to recover.
So I guess when you look at your like next destination, do you look at BKFC, PFL? I guess what's on your mind right now?
Money, money is on my mind. You know, I fought the best guys in the world in the UFC. I competed in the UFC at a really high level for 8 years. I think I'm known enough that I can get a fight for PFL, for GFL, for I don't know that I'll do bare knuckle unless they're gonna offer me an insane amount of money that I just can't say no to. But like I'm gonna sign with the first person that offers me an amount of money that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of things I dreamed of having when I started this game. I'm like a little hillbilly kid from Michigan. Like I don't need a lot. Personally, I don't need a lot of things. I live in a beautiful house. I have a nice car. I have a few houses. Like it's like my life is good. You know what I mean? My life before the UFC and my life now they don't even look the same. So, like again, I'm super thankful from where I'm at because I have options. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily have to like go to the regional scene. And I don't know if I'm at a position in my life where like I would go to the regional scene and try to like win my way back to the UFC. I mean, I've like it's almost like romantic to think about that. Like, do you love the sport enough to do that? To do that, even though like, you don't necessarily like need, 10 grand or whatever they're going to pay me to fight in the regional scene. I'm like, that's where I'm at. I'm kind of like going back and forth. Do I just like fight everyone nonstop until I can't do this anymore? Or do I hold out and, you know, get paid, a decent amount of money to go compete a couple more times against some like legit competition? And I really don't have the answer to that question. I mean, I'm kind of getting that like itch, like I really, really want to get in there and compete again, and I feel really good. So, who knows? I don't know if there'll be an opportunity, like PFL, GFL. I feel like the UFC kind of held me well, I guess, maybe it wasn't the UFC, but I feel like I wish they would have released me right away, so I would have had the option to be in the PFL tournament or to sign with GFL. When they were kind of signing everybody that used to fight in the UFC. But that's just not how the cards shook out for me. So I think there could be an injury, or an opening in one of those promotions, in the next few months. We'll see. So I'm just gonna stay in shape and hope something worthwhile pops up. And if not, uh, I guess I will just hang out because I don't really, I'm not in a position where I have to like make a huge move right now.
For sure, man, for sure. And best of luck to you in your future endeavors. I guess looking back at the fan reception and stuff like that, what legacy do you feel like you left in the UFC? I feel like you were kind of like an anytime, anywhere kind of fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go to the UFC and represent, a true blue collar American. You know what I mean? A guy that just kept his mouth shut, showed up. If there was a job, I showed up and I went to work. And I didn't want to sell my soul and be that guy that, says all kinds of crazy stuff just to, get the clickbait and be popular. Like, I really thought like going into the UFC, like that was kind of an important thing to me. But then I realized that like the people that I was trying to impress weren't, the greatest human beings, and like they were just literally just waiting until I stumbled at some point. These people weren't actually they didn't care about me as a person, and like I made the people proud that I wanted to make proud. My family, the people that truly care about me. Like I made those people proud, uh, and that's plenty for me. I don't care about a legacy. I don't care. This sport forgets people so fast. Like to hang your existence on, like what the average casual MMA fan thinks of you. Like I don't care about those things. I truly do not care. And so like as far as like legacy and all that stuff, I don't care. I mean, my legacy is that I came to the UFC with absolutely nothing, and I'm a 35-year-old millionaire. So like that's my legacy is that I can like take care of the people that I care about. And, outside of that, like I don't really care about anything else.
Got it. Cody, well, I just want to thank you again for the time, man. And is there anything that you want to say to the fans out there watching that have supported you in your career for so long?
To the people that rode with me through the good and the bad times, I absolutely love you, and I'm so thankful for you. To the people who didn't, God bless you.
Awesome, Cody. Well, thank you so much for the time, man. It was great to talk to you, and hopefully we could do this again sometime, man.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully next time it'll be announcing a fight.
Awesome, man, and hopefully some good money too.